Welcome back to Cuyahoga Falls Chronicles. Today we're heading to Fountain Park in September 1925, to the Summit County Fair, when a whole day was devoted to our hometown. They called it Cuyahoga Falls Day, and the falls came out in force to celebrate. Schools closed, families packed lunches, and by the thousands, Fallsites poured into the fairgrounds for music, contests, races, and fireworks.
And when Jeri says thousands, she means it. The Beacon Journal predicted a crowd of 20,000 or 25,000 would pass through the gates on opening day. For Falls Day, it felt like half the town was there. The streets were jammed with cars and buses bringing people in, and kids running ahead toward the sound of the bands.
Imagine stepping onto those grounds. The first thing you'd hear was music. The Cuyahoga Falls City Band striking up beneath the grandstand.
Right. That was under the leadership of E.O. Sax, who'd been playing with the band since 1876. The paper said Sax was the only one left of all the band boys who used to blare down Front Street, the envy of all the other young men in Cuyahoga Falls in 1876. By 1925, he'd been at it nearly 50 years.
Sax was the last of the band boys, and the band itself was the oldest in the state, dating back to 1834. On Falls Day, they were the heartbeat of the fair, playing during the races, leading parades, and closing out the evening fireworks.
And while the music carried across the fairgrounds, there was plenty to see. Barns filled with cattle, sheep, and swine, pens of rabbits and poultry, the horticultural hall bursting with fruits, vegetables, and giant pumpkins, the women's building lined with canned goods, quilts, and baked pies. Every aisle was bursting with color, texture, and smell.
And then there was the human side. The fashion of 1925. Men in straw boaters and suspenders, women in cloche hats and drop-waist dresses with beads and silk stockings, children in knickers, bloomers, and starched collars, everyone looking their best for a day out.
Not to mention the little things that made people smile. The Akron Beacon Journal joked, if all the yardsticks carried away from the fair yesterday were laid end to end, they would reach from here to Nome, Alaska, and back. And there would be enough left over to replank all the covered bridges in Summit County.
Another laugh came from city children gawking at farmers' sideburns and handlebar mustaches. The newspaper reported, some of the city children who have never seen anything like the facial foliage are embarrassing their mothers terribly by stopping and staring in open-mouthed awe every time they pass one of these unconscious exhibitors.
That's the magic of the fair. For city kids, it was a chance to see and smell things they never did at home: livestock, country folk, crops, and yes, glorious mustaches.
And then came the contests. These weren't just polite pie-judging affairs. They were raucous, messy, and wildly entertaining.
Let's start with the Fat Man race. First place went to H.O. Bixler, who earned himself a spotlight. Second and third place, William Suntieheimer and S.E. Smith, both walked away with boxes of cigars.
The greased pole contest was pure slapstick. Contestants tried and failed for nearly 45 minutes before John Cooley made it to the top and claimed his prize, a $30 harp.
And my favorite, the greased pig contest. At first there was a dispute over who had actually caught the pig, so the judges released a second one. In the end, L.E. Whalen was the clear winner, literally taking home the bacon.
You couldn't script it better. Then there was the wheelbarrow race. William McElwain and George Durfus won first place, taking home a 25-pound bag of flour and a pair of shoes. Joseph Mills and Leo Carey came in second, and each won a jackknife.
The ladies weren't left out. The pop drinking contest saw Mrs. Edward Perrin gulp her way to first place and win an electric toaster. Mrs. Bessie Borner came second with 25 pounds of flour, while Ethel Rice went home with a ham.
And speaking of Mrs. Borner, she also braved the crepe paper contest. About 10 women had to unroll 500 sheets of crepe paper with their noses. The paper said the winner, and probably the most scarred-up nose, was Bessie Borner, who took home a bathtub stool for her hard work. Second place, Mrs. Olive Reeder, won enough wallpaper for a whole room, while Helen Liebig settled for a 25-pound bag of flour.
We can't forget the races. The 50-yard dashes were hotly contested. Men's dash, Harold Miller, a $5 hat. Women's dash, Una Crane, a $6 bathing suit. Boys dash, Junior Hoke, a $5 savings account. Girls dash, Martha Todd, an Eastman camera.
Other races included sack races, egg and spoon, potato races, and even a basketball race. The prizes were just as colorful. Carpet sweepers, savings accounts, candy boxes, gold belt buckles, even a Hershey chocolate cake.
And then there's this gem from the Beacon. While Circus and Wild West acts played in front of the grandstand, one middle-aged man leaned over and said, "I could sit and watch this all day. I don't see why they have to have those old races when they have these shows."
Proof that not everyone was in it for the horses. As the sun set, families spread picnic suppers on the grass. At 7 o'clock, special prizes were handed out for things like the most dilapidated automobile and who moved to the falls from the furthest location.
Platform dancing picked up in the evening. The paper described bands playing, tents fluttering, and thousands surging about the grounds. Couples twirled under lanterns while kids begged for one more ride or one last bag of candy.
The grand finale came at 10 p.m. Fireworks exploded overhead while the Cuyahoga Falls City Band played below. The paper said the park presented the most vivid and animated picture in its history. Even though the night was chilly, most of the crowd stayed until the very end.
One article called it the largest and most complete fireworks exhibit ever entered in a fair in this county. And I believe it. Between the contests, the animals, the exhibits, the music, and the fireworks, Falls Day in 1925 must have felt like a dream.
And that's why we still talk about it 100 years later. It wasn't just a fair. It was a moment when Cuyahoga Falls showed its pride, its humor, and its community spirit. We'd love to hear from you. Do you have family memories of the Summit County Fair? Maybe your grandparents told you about the greased pig, or maybe there's still an old prize tucked away in your attic. Share your stories with us, and we may feature them in a future episode.
Thanks for walking with us through the fairgrounds of 1925. Until next time, keep remembering, keep sharing, and keep our town's history alive.